Okay, hopefully traffic's not going to be too bad. Labor Day, and even on a normal day, usually as soon as I fire the camera up, here comes the Harley parade, but hopefully we'll get through this. Okay, where we left off on the last, I know, long-winded video. Again, if these are too long-winded, if they're too in-depth or something like that, drop me a comment down at the bottom. Let me know to be more concise to shorten them up. Or do y'all want the actual pinpoint little presentation for, fine detail? Just let me know what the preferences are, and we'll go from there. So anyway, on the last one, camera shut off 45 seconds before I was finished as far as describing the lubes. And what I was going to say, as far as stuck cases, the water-based lubes, the petroleum-based lubes, if you let them stay on and dry, they tend to get sticky. You don't want to do like the water-based where you lube them and just let them sit. You want to lube it while your lube is still oily. Run them through, then wipe them off, clean them. You want to clean them real good. A lot of people run them in a sonic cleaner. Some people use alcohol, but you want to make sure that you have no lube anywhere near the primer pocket or anywhere inside the case itself, case mouth or anything. So, again, if you leave a lot of your petroleum-based lubes on, they will get sticky, and you can actually stick a case from the lube itself. So that's just something to be aware of. So again, that's all I had left on the last presentation, so I figured I would stick it on this, which is our part 2 of that, I guess, getting into trimming. I know most of y'all probably aren't going to use this type of trimmer. You'll have the little hand trimmer, one you can twist by hand or chuck up in a drill, depending on how many cases you're going to do. But this is what I have, other than my specialty cases, the one for the 223. My rounds I shoot a lot. I run the Little Crows. That's a separate video. However, whatever type of case or trimmer you're using, going to pretty much be the same premise. Okay, so I just brought out 3 of our cases here. And apologies, I do not have a pause. I have to run and get my mic. I should really make sure I have everything before I come out. So, as far as mics, micrometers, calipers, there's no need to go really expensive. This is an older Cobalt. Of course, they don't sell these at Lowe's anymore. The ones they have now, they're, well, a whole lot fancier. They're still inexpensive. I won't use the term cheap. I'll use the term inexpensive. But they have the fractions. This one has decimals in millimeters and inches. I can generally convert whatever I need to a fraction in my carpentry work. So there's no need in me buying a new one. If you want to get one of those, that's fine. They run $30, $39 maybe. Again, no use in buying the most expensive. Don't buy the cheapest piece of junk you can find. But around $30 is a pretty good price range. When the trucks get by. Around $30 is a pretty good price range to spend on a decent micrometer. Unless you're doing bench rest shooting at 500 to 1,000 yards, These are going to be plenty accurate, that you're not going to be measuring down to the 5/100,000th of an inch. 3 decimal places is, well, excuse me, 4 decimal places is all you need. You do need 4 decimal places. Okay. Now that we've covered that, we'll get into setting up our trimmer. And if you have these type trimmers or any other adjustable type trimmer, a quick, easy way to do your setup. And we'll also get into the measuring. Now, as I said in the last one, all the factory cases I've been running across, not only are they over trim length, even though they're brand new, never fired cases out of the box until you fire them, then they're once fired, that's not going to stretch that brass that much. So these cases are over length to begin with. A lot of your Winchester cases, I've noticed some of the Hornady's, instead of putting a taper crimp on, your hunting rounds and that type of stuff, they do run a roll crimp and a cantilevered bullet. So that's something you have to watch out for. Those come out extremely long and do have to be trimmed. Main purposes of trimming your case, one, is so that case mouth doesn't stick into your chamber. So if you're running a bolt action, for example, if you cam that bolt over and this case mouth is against the front of the chamber, what happens is this case rolls over and it actually crimps the case into the bullet. Just like running it through a cedar die with a crimp, it's the same premise as putting a heavy crimp on your case. If you're running a hot case, a near max case, that's going to raise your pressures possibly to above max. And you can have an overpressure load just by having a long case mouth that gets crimped into the bullet by the action of the gun. If you're running semi-auto, you just basically going to have bad jam. And if you have a heavy spring and this gets slammed forward into the chamber, it can stick so hard that you're basically going to have to mortar the round out. Not something you want in a hunting situation. If it's a self-defense gun, not something you want in that. Other thing for having a uniform trim length, if you're going to crimp. Again, for those of you that know, and for those of you that don't know, I'll re-explain. The farther this case mouth goes up into the die, the heavier the crimp. You want a uniform crimp for accuracy. Also, if you're running hot loads, you want a uniform crimp to keep the pressures the same. That way one might be fine, one might be over. A uniform case length will set that case mouth against the cedar shoulder in the die, the crimp shoulder in the die, and every case will be crimped exactly the same. Now the neighbor's leaving, I'll wait till they get out of the way. And apologies for the long-winded videos and traffic, and hope the sunlight's not messing this up. So again, uniform crimp is essential for accuracy if you're going to crimp. If you're not going to crimp, it's not as big of a deal. Again, if you're shooting 500,000 yard bench rest, it might make enough of a difference. Hunting rounds, it's not. Again, that's if you're running neck tension only and not crimp, which we will get into that in the seating portion of the video. Now, today I'm doing the same 308 cases we sized last night. The trim 2 length of the 308 is 2.005 inches. The max trim length, which is the longest you can leave that case without having jams, crimp issues, that type of stuff, is 2.015 inches. When you're doing your trimming, always trim to the trim 2 length. That way you're going to get several firings out of it before you have to go back and retrim the case. 223, for example, most all the cases I'm getting in the factory 223s are running 1.76, which is max run out. Trim 2 length is 1.75. A lot of the 5.56 cases, the military cases, they're coming out at 1.77, 1.78. So those have to be trimmed. Again, I always trim to the minimum case length. On a 223, generally, I trim the cases once, and before the cases elongate enough to need to be trimmed again, that case is already non-serviceable. So most of my 223s, I only ever have to trim one time before the case goes bad. Another reason to trim to the minimum length. That's for us lazy folks. So again, the trim length on a 308 is 2.005. This trimmer is set for 243, which, if you know, a 243 is simply a neck down 308 case. It's a 308 neck down to a 243 diameter bullet. However, the 243 cases, the trim 2 length is 2.035 inches. So I will have to adjust my trimmer. So first off, let me go ahead and change my about. Say 30. I also have to take my glasses off to see the camera. Now, since I know this is going to be longer than what the case trim length is, I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up, which will also, I need to loosen that one. Help me to illustrate a quick and easy setup. You can set that to where you think it needs to be, run it in. Yes, I'll have to move my coffee. Check your case. Then adjust it a little bit, run it, check your case, adjust it till you get, going in a little bit at a time until you get your right trim length. Easy, quick, cheating way to do it. If I don't know what this is set at to begin with. And also with these type trimmers, you don't want to tighten your case in. You want to put your nib in the case mouth. Don't hold it really tight, but just put that in to keep it lined, then lock it. So what I'm going to do is just a little bit at a time here. Another mistake I made was not checking that before I started running it. Going to zero my calipers. We'll take one of these. So I've already trimmed on that. Just to see what the length is. Again, I cannot see in the sunlight here. Okay, this is a once fired federal case, never been reloaded before. 2.02324 inches. 23.5, 24. Again, my trim 2 length is 2.005, so we're going to have to take a lot off of these. So run a little bit off of your case. We're at 2.013. Now that is under the max trim length, but again, we're going to take these down to minimum. So again, we put this in, chuck it up. Don't want to go too much. Again, you can always take more off You can't add any back. I've ran this lousy knuckle buster enough times that I pretty much know how much to take off per thousand. But again, you're starting out, no matter what type of trimmer you're using, if you're adjusting it, start long, work your way down short. And these nibs always stick in the cases. Everything I don't like about these. Okay, we are now at 2.009. We have to go down 4 thousandths. So we do this again. Again, as you can see, my set wheel not even in the way. Also helps if you mount that to the table. 2.007. All that cranking, all I took off was 2 thousandths. I've got to go down another 2 thousandths. Also without knocking my camera over. 2.004 and a half. Close enough for government work. 1/1000th of an inch too short, not going to hurt. To be honest, 2/1000ths of an inch really isn't going to hurt, as long as you keep them all the same length. However, that's close enough. So what we do, and to make that slide a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and chamfer this just a little real quick. We'll get it chamfered in a minute. And this is not a good day, if you can tell from the sunlight, to be wearing a black t-shirt. So now, to set our stop, we have our case trimmed to the length we want. We simply, now I'll turn this where my nut's up, push our stop against, tighten that down. Now another thing to be aware of, this is also a Federal, so this should be the same, coming out the same batch. But if you're doing range brass, mixed cases, Winchester, Remington, Federal, even different batches of Federal, so on and so forth, since this spaces off the rim, a slight difference in rim thickness can affect your trim length out here. So just something to be aware of. Chuck her up, slide her in, lock her down. Now, I go till it stops. Again, they see why I hate these trimmers. Double check my zero. And I did not go to liquid cutting. So, there we go. Okay, now because we simply butted this up against, if y'all know what the difference in, I don't know if you can see the calipers, how much they open. That's 0.026 inches. We're going in thousandths here. That's 9 thousandths of an inch, that little crack right there. We're getting down into 1 and 2 thousandths of an inch. So that's how precise your calipers are going to be. Okay, so what I have is 2.011. This is where your fine tune comes in. I need to go just a little deeper. So I'm going to back my fine tune knob off. 3 thousandths. We'll try it there. Again, you can always take off more. You can't put it back. And once our fine tune is set, we're pretty much set to run everything. Again, setup and reloading is always your biggest pain. Hopefully I haven't bored you out of tears again yet. Come out of there. Also helps you keep these things oiled. 2.007. So I'm basically turning this 0.03 of an inch every time. So right there should be 0.02. And that should get me close. If my first one's off, a little shorter, I can always set that aside and then run all the rest of these, and every one of them should be the same length, even if they are 1/1000th longer than my first one. That'll be my sacrificial case. Or another idea, we'll get into teaching you how to do dummies. Size you a case, trim your case to whatever length you want, wipe it off good with alcohol so it sticks, take you a Sharpie, write on the side what length it is, put that back, use that next time. If you change from caliber to caliber to caliber, you have one of these for each caliber. That way when you change your trimmers, whatever type trimmer you're using, you have a preset pattern. One more adjustment and we're ready to run. And hopefully this camera's not going to shut off because I'm getting close to my shut off point. Maybe we can get through the chamfering. Anyway, I won't bore you with this anymore. You get the idea. 2.006, we're looking for 2.005. If I was going to use that for my pattern, 1/1000th of an inch, if I'm going to run all these cases, I'm not going to worry about trimming it exactly to 2.005 minimum trim length. As long as they're all trimmed the same length, this is going to work. So there we go. Now, I use the old RCBS outside, inside. Anytime you trim, can't apologize for the sunlight, but you can see the burr around it. You want to chamfer the inside of the case. That takes that burr off. Also, it leaves just a slight, you don't want to go real deep, just a very slight inside chamfer, especially if you're loading flat base bullets. That will keep the case from shaving the jacket. Outside, gotta love that sound, you want to make sure you take that burr off. Now you don't want to like bevel the outside, but you do want to take it down enough, possibly just slightly more than what this case neck is, just slightly on the very, very bevel. And that will keep, when you crimp this in, when you go to chamber it, a lot of times if you have a perfectly 90-degree square case neck to mouth, shooting a bolt action, you might have to actually cam that bolt to get it to go in because it's going to be tight. That prevents that. If you do have that happen, it's generally because you have a very short chamber in your rifle. If these are cut back to minimum trim length, that shouldn't be a problem no matter what. Unless, like I said, it's just sticking way out the side with that burr on it. But take the burr off, you're good. You can really see it on this one. Doesn't take much. Inside, outside, and you're done. So, there's your trimming videos. Again, all your load data should have your minimum and maximum trim to lengths. Good thing to adhere by that. Again, if you're doing this for your rifle and you have this trimmed to whatever the book says the length is, again, 1.75 for 223, 2.005 for 308, 2.035 for 243, etc., etc., and you still have a problem having to cam that bolt over, take your case neck back just a little bit more. 308, 2.005 inches. If you're having to cam that bolt, take it back to 2.00 inches. It's not going to hurt anything. You don't want to, cut your case neck all the way back here and then try to have something hold the bullet straight. But a few thousandths off is not going to hurt, again, as long as they are all trimmed to the same length. Okay, I'm going to go put something on besides a black t-shirt, wipe the sweat off my face, and I guess we'll get started on the grip videos. Again, I will finish up the loading process tonight inside with the air conditioner where it's cooler.